Hey, this is Alfred Edmund Jr., Senior Vice President, Executive Editor-at-Large at Black Enterprise, here with another edition of Beyond the Hype. This episode of Beyond the Hype is being brought to you by Citi. And today we're talking about all things wealth creation, particularly in the context of recession. Now, depending on who you talk to, we're either on our way to a recession, we're in a recession, we might be having a recession. But listen, speaking as someone who's lived through at least 8 recessions by my count, it doesn't matter whether one is coming or not. It is important for you to kind of understand and be prepared about the principles of wealth creation. And for this discussion, keys to building wealth in a recession, we could not have a more expert guest, a more passionate person on this topic, world-renowned speaker, author of books that changed my life, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, What Makes the Great Great, The Wealth Choice, which was a major mind shift, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it when we get into this conversation. Listen, without further ado, welcome to the show, the one and only Dr. Dennis Kimbro. Thank you, Dr. Kimbro, for joining Beyond the Hype.
Oh, we're beyond the doctor status, Alfred. I'm Dennis. Great to be here. And, hey, Black Enterprise and that entire team holds a special place in my heart. Because I can tell you the year, the month, the date when Mr. Earl Graves walked into the publisher. We had that luncheon, and they asked a number of folks to show up. And Mr. Graves was one of the first individuals who believed in this book, saw the impact that it could make. And you know what? And I got to start telling the historical ramifications of that. Okay, so 1897, your most prolific scholar, W.B. Du Bois, writes that seminal book, The Negro in Business. Here he is teaching at Atlanta University, same school, it's called Clark Atlanta now, where I teach. The summer months come, it's the end of the spring semester. He gets on a train and traipses all up and down the eastern seaboard, stops as far north as Boston, as far south as Jacksonville, Florida, gets off and interviews, quote unquote. I don't know if there are many different gradations if you're a successful business owner or you're non-successful. Back in those days, late 1800s, early 1900s, Alfred, they were just trying to make it. Entrepreneurs, black entrepreneurs, trying to find the keys to success. So he writes that book in 1897, and you heard me say it before, 3 magic quotes in that book. And listen to me, I don't care, viewers, this is going to be on a podcast, listeners, pads down, pencils up, you are in my classroom. Quote number 1, the man or woman who won't control his or her finances won't control anything else. So what is Du Bois saying? He's saying organize your capital. Organize your capital. And I'm not so sure we got the memo. Why? Because damn near half, high 40% of black America is unbanked. And when I say unbanked, they're not using a reputable financial institution for their banking needs. Well, what are they using? I'm not knocking Walmart. But between Walmart and the post office, that's really the bank of black America. And if Walmart and the post office isn't your bank, how about payday loans and pawnbrokers? You heard me right, Alfred Edmund, a pawnbroker. They call it payday loans for a reason. All right, so you get paid once a week or you get paid twice a month, every other week. And you go ahead and the average loan for African Americans at those payday loan places is about $300. So you borrow the $300 on the 1st of the month. Now here comes the 15th of the month thinking you're going to repay that $300. Well, no, it's not going to happen because it takes the average African American between 7 to 8 months to repay that $300. That's what Du Bois was telling you in 1897. If you won't control your finances, what do you care about black on black crime? What do you care about dwindling college rates among African American males? If you don't care about the money in your pocket. Quote number 2. He says, nothing positive will ever occur in a community that fails to circulate its dollars. Wow. 1897. All right, so here we are in 2022. No ethnic group, no culture, no ethnicity holds on to their cash more than East Indians. The average dollar stays in the East Indian community about 45 days before leaving. That's a month and a half. The average dollar stays in the Asian community about 24 days before leaving. The average dollar stays in the Jewish community about 19 days before leaving. The average dollar stays in the black community 6 hours before leaving. So, I mean, come on, you're making a profit out of W.B. Du Bois. Nothing positive will ever occur. Now, Alfred, you worked hard for the money, spend it on whatever you want to spend it on. Buy whatever you want to buy. You earn it, go ahead and spend it. But all I'm saying, here I am teaching at an HBCU, and what do we know about the buying habits of my people? Well, at one time, black males were only 6% of the population. At one time, they bought nearly 24% of all shoes and cologne manufactured in the United States. Well, if that's true, how come I don't see some Chanel scholars in my class? How come I don't see some Ferragamo scholars in my class? Oh, that's I got a full ride on Ferragamo shoes. Oh, really? Yeah. Leverage your economic power. That's all I'm saying. Leverage your power like every other group does. At one time, black males, 6% of the population, and at one time they were buying 25 to 35% of all Nike shoes. Leverage your power. So here I am. We got an average yearly enrollment, about 4,000 students. No one on that campus. And Alfred, when I say that campus, you've been in my classroom.
Yes.
I don't care whether you go to Morehouse. I don't care whether you go to Spelman. I don't care whether you go to ITC. I don't care whether you go to Morris Brown. I don't care where you go. No one in the AUC has more students than me. Well, how come I don't see some Nike scholars in there? That's Kimbro. I got a full ride. Oh, you do it with who? Nike. Leverage your power. And then last but not least, you need to memorize this quote, Black America. He said to be a poor man is hard, but to be a poor race in a land full of dollars, well, that's the very bottom of hardship. That's the very bottom of hardship. So that was 1897. Du Bois wrote that book, The Negro in Business. Fast forward the videotape 13 years. Now it's 1910. Booker T. Washington writes his third book. Actually, it was his fourth book, but I'll say it was his third book, and I'll tell you why. And it's entitled The Negro in Business. There were only 25,000 copies of that book, and yours truly, you're in my study. I can show you my copy of Booker T. Washington's book, The Negro in Business. He was the first African-American to make it on the cover of Success magazine. So 1897, The Negro in Business, W.B. Du Bois. 1910, The Negro in Business, Booker T. Washington, your two brightest paragons. And from 1910 to 1991, 81 years went by before Black America had another book focused on financial literacy, specifically for them. Think and Grow Rich, a Black piece.
Yes. Now
how do we look, and when we get up out of bed, how do we face ourselves and look at ourselves in the mirror, knowing 81 years went by? How do you do that? What mindset is your greatest resource? You go back to ancient Africa, go back to antiquity, and look at all the pharaohs and look at all the Cleopatras. And the one thing that they had in common, Alfred, they would take little statuettes and little headshots and bust shots, and they would place them in the homes of all the children in ancient Egypt. Well, why did they do that? Because this is the greatness that they wanted the children to aspire to be. It's called self-actualization. They were Abraham Maslow, ahead of Abraham Maslow. Emulate the best and brightest. And that's all I ever attempted to do. And I was a Johnny-come-lately. Okay, so that book was written in 1991. This was, Mr. Earl Graves was doing this in the 1970s.
Yes.
Emulate the best and brightest, brother. So it all comes together.
Well, see, and I want to, again, I said at the top, I want to really talk about how those books particularly impacted me. Now, I came to Black Enterprise in 1987, so, 35 years ago, young man, and Think and Grow Rich. I was a new father at the time, first time married, and that was what woke me up to the idea that to aspire to successful middle class values, I had to not only change my job, get an education, the things that I had done, but none of those things mattered if I didn't change my mindset. So I was raised in a working poor family in a working class community, and I still had that mindset, even though by the time I read Think and Grow Rich and Black Choice, I was firmly making, high middle income. I was editor in chief, I think, of Black Enterprise by that time, but I was still thinking with the mindset that I've been raised with. I think Think and Grow Rich and Black Choice was a big help me shift. Fast forward to the Wealth Choice, and I realized something else. To go from a successful middle class mindset to a wealth creation mindset required another shift. Because you think, we both know you can get back to the middle class, you get your degree, you get your good six-figure job, you get a nice house, you get a nice car, and you think that's making it until you look up and you realize that you're not, and you want to get a little bit into it because you didn't just talk about this from a philosophical standpoint. Yeah. You teach it as a professor at Clark Atlanta, and I've had the pleasure of being brought to your class to speak. And you studied it. These books are the result of study and research, not just platitudes and biographies of admirable people and their quotes. And so the way you distilled, and which is why I was like, it'd be great to have you for this show, that this is not just nice platitudes about successful people. These are studies of millionaires, billionaires, and other measures of success, and what they have in common that can be duplicated and, to your point, taught to our children and their children and their children. The real inheritance that makes you a good and godly person, not just money and material things, but like you said, the standards, the role models, and the values. Yeah. Talk more about that, because again, it's still having an impact on my life. The life I've been living since I was in my mid-40s to today was triggered by me reading The Wealth Choice. Yeah. And then a very successful, by then I was, editor-in-chief and senior vice president of Black Enterprise. I had achieved success, but didn't realize that there was further to go if I was really going to fulfill my potential as a wealth creator.
Oh, yeah, just like John Johnson, Mr. Johnson of Ebony Magazine told me, it's a never-ending journey. But I've had so many folks pour into me, my department chair, my committee at Northwestern. I mean, they just beat me over the head and shoulders. Don't come to me unless you have data. When you get the data and you don't interpret the data will share it, will tell you everything that you need to know. So I'm thinking about that. And when I was granted the degree, I turned to my wife and I said, Pat, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to write this book. She said, how long will it take you? I said, 18 months. It took me close to 7 years. But here's the thing, Alfred. One of the biggest breaks that I got, okay, so I got the degree. I leave Northwestern and I went back into corporate America, stealing time to write this book, knowing all the time that I wanted to teach. So here I am, early in my research, and I pick up an old copy of Time magazine. This will blow you away. And the Time magazine article was focused on Martin Luther King and the Montgomery bus boycott. And they said that when Dr. King led that boycott, there were only 5 black millionaires in the United States. And I read that and I said, what? And they had the names. And who were the 5? S.B. Fuller, T.M. Alexander, Charles Clinton Spaulding, A.G. Gaston, and of course, John Johnson. So I read it, and you heard me say it before when I pulled out a legal sheet of paper and I wrote down 50 names that I was going to interview. Those 5 individuals were at the top of the list. And what was beyond remarkable, 4 of the 5 were still living.
Yes.
Flew to Chicago, took care of Johnson and S.B. Fuller. I drove to Birmingham, Alabama with my wife and 3 children in the sweltering summer heat, waited in the car for more than 3 hours as I was in his office, seated across from his desk while he was pouring into me. Spent the better part of a day with T.M. Alexander, and this is an interesting story. When he graduated from Morehouse in the 1940s, one of his uncles, as a gift, gave him a $100 bill, and he took that $100 bill to start his own insurance company, and he was the individual who insured the cars that were used in the Montgomery bus boycott. Now, the only individual who wasn't living, like I said, was in North Carolina Mutual Insurance Company, Charles Clinton Spaulding. But that didn't stop me from driving up to Raleigh-Durham, and I spent 2 days at that company. I interviewed family members. I interviewed co-workers. I interviewed associates who knew him well, that I could go ahead and pour it on a sheet of paper so the reader could wrap their mind around this individual, thinking, well, damn it, if we only have 5, I'm going to tell the story of these 5. So I had interviewed over the course of my early career, more than 150. I had so many interviews that I had interviews for Think and Grow Rich or Black Choice, interviews for What Makes the Great Great, and interviews for the Wealth Choice, and never told a story twice. And I still have interviews that I had that are on the shop room floor that, man, I got to tell these stories. I mean, these folks, and I might use them in some of my cases, and the like. And that's all I wanted to do. You heard me say it before. We've got to, and that's what Black Enterprise is about. We got to tell we don't tell our stories, who's going to tell them?
You know, Dennis, it's easy to say that you're a world-renowned, in-demand, much sought-after speaker, but there are a lot of those. With all due respect to I do a lot of public speaking. What sets you apart for me personally is the scholarship. Is I tell people, you're not a speaker, you're a messenger. Like, you come with a passion. Like, you're not there just to give a speech and that was very inspirational. Your passion just comes through, and it hasn't wavered in all the years that I've known you. And now you're on Instagram and you're bringing it to the gram. Talk about the sense of purpose that you've always brought to this. You knew you wanted to be a teacher, and you do teach, but you could have taught economics, you could have taught English, you could have taught anything you wanted to teach, and you could have just taught at Clark Atlanta, and like, that's my job, I taught. But you're teaching now. You're like, take down your note, pick up your notepad, get ready to take these notes.
Oh yeah, we have my first class. My first class was last Thursday, and we have blood on the dance floor already. I told a couple of students, man, I didn't like the way you walked into my class. Didn't I? Yeah. I put it on campus and out there in the syllabus. You need to Google me before you come in my class.
Well, talk to me about that.
Yeah,
talk to me about that passion, that this urgency that you deliver these messages, even now on social media.
And that was the thing about Du Bois, man. And everybody knows. Okay, so Du Bois and Martin Luther King, they were barely on speaking terms. Why? Because Du Bois didn't believe that King emphasized economic development enough. And number two, he said Du Bois, according to Du Bois now, and we know that Du Bois could be a little bit aloof. But the bottom line is, he felt that King waited too long for a march on Washington. And Du Bois was an activist, and yes, he could be a little bit aloof. But between the two of them, that's all the information that you need. And so here I am, and I'm studying this whole thing about wealth and poverty, and about personal development and the like. And I said to myself, man, I said, and I didn't come in contact with Napoleon Hill until later on in my life. Oh yeah, I tell my students all the time, Alfred, I've never taken a philosophy course in my life. I've never taken a sociology course in my life. I've never taken, philosophy, sociology, but there was one other course in life. And last but not least, I've never had a black school teacher in my life. From kindergarten to PhD, I never had a black teacher in my life. But what is true nobility? True nobility, you can learn from anybody. You can learn from anybody. All right, so the Bible says, okay, you know, we all know that passage where they looked for Jesus for 3 days. He, quote unquote, according to them, he was missing. And then when they finally found him, they said, where have you been? You got people upset. Don't you know we're looking for you? And his reply, wait a minute, you're looking for me. You know where I've been. I've been about my Father's business. Well, I tell my students, what is your Father's business? Your Father's business is growth. Your Father's business is development. Your Father's business being better today than you were yesterday. Your Father's business, I mean, come on, man. That's what it's about. It's about chasing your dream. The only reason why the Lord of heavenly hosts has blown breath into your lungs is to fulfill your purpose, is to fulfill your dream. That's what Gandhi was about. That's what King was about. That's what Nelson Mandela was about. What are the two characteristics that they all had in common? Number one, they left people better off than when they found them. And number two, their character, their integrity, their development, man. I mean, what greater role model, what are you aspiring to be? You know, I have, first of all, everybody on that campus knows my classroom because I got a sign and they painted my classroom. They took the sign down, but they did leave the sign. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they know my classroom, because I got a sign that says, if you don't want to work hard, you don't belong here. And if you don't want to lead, under no circumstances, walk through my door. Now,
repeat that again. If you don't want to lead.
If you don't want to lead, under no circumstances, walk through this door. I mean, you got about 400 and some odd other professors here at this school. Let me get out of your way so you can take their class. But who taught me that? Well, you go read The Souls of Black Folk. And when students, by W.B. Du Bois, and when Du Bois was at Atlanta University, he taught history. He taught civics. The man even taught Greek. He was there for 9 years, Alfred. And 3 of the 9 years, he was university chaplain. There was no B school back then, but you had economics majors because he taught economics. So economics students would come into his classroom thinking that they're going to, study supply and demand. Well, it's really a finance term, net present value and the like. And they would walk into the classroom. Alfred, listen to this. And he was, oh, good morning, Dr. Du Bois. How are you? Hello, Dr. Du Bois. Did you have a nice weekend? Oh, hi, Dr. Du Bois. And what was Du Bois's reply? The same reply he always gave at the beginning of his class. Paideia, paideia, paideia. Always paideia. P-A-D-E-I-A. Well, what in the world is paideia? It's the Greek term for learning. It's the Greek term for education. It's the Greek term for scholarship. It's the Greek term for knowledge. Paideia, paideia, always paideia. Because if you live the normal life, and the normal life, you've heard me say this before, I don't care. The normal life is what, 74, 77 years on earth? Do the calculus. That's 30,000 days, or that's what, 4,000 weeks? You do the calculus. Time is not running out, but your life is. And, there's only 4 questions that you've got to answer in life. Number one, where have you been? And that's what I said to my students last Thursday. No one in this classroom is 16 years old. You've been on this planet for a while. Okay, so if you're a freshman, last year was the 12th grade, well, that doesn't make this year the 13th. So, come on, man, you've been around for a while. Where have you been? What does Steve Jobs say? Steve Jobs says, don't build a business, build a movement. Build a movement. And if I learned anything from Mr. Earl G. Graves, great movements never begin with the choir. They begin with the soloist. They begin with the soloist. That one individual standing on center stage, people throwing the rotten tomatoes at him, people laughing, get off, blah, 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 taking all the nonsense. But one day, slowly but surely, folks are grabbing into his or her space. So number one, where have you been? Number two, what can you do? What can you do? What is your value add? What is your area of excellence? If you were a box of Cracker Jacks, what's the free prize inside? What is your superpower? And we all have a superpower. We all have a free prize inside. And a lot of times we don't get a chance to see it until the blank is against the wall, until you are up the final hour, man. And you said, the hell with everything. Life doesn't begin at 20. Life doesn't begin at 30. Life doesn't begin at 40. But by age 50, you care less what people think about you. You know that time is running out. I got to get on with it. If you are for me, fine. If you ain't for me, well, damn it, that's fine too. Because maybe this is something I got to do.
Yes.
So what is your area of excellence? And we all have an area of excellence. Number 3, where are you going? Where are you going? I tell my students all the time, when you drive through life, look through the windshield, not the rear view mirror. So many folks, your past is no predictor on your future. If the past is a predictor on your future, Black America will be no place with the nonsense that we went through. And because we don't think that way, they won't tell you this, Alfred, but everybody loves our culture.
Yep.
They love our culture. I mean, Black America in the last 20 years has even changed the whole discipline of marketing. Alfred, you know this better than anybody. Being in advertising, it's no longer the 4 Ps, price, product, place, promotion. Those days are gone. Where is marketing right now? Marketing is at the intersection of technology, because it's all digital, and culture. It's at that intersection. Technology and culture. And whose culture? Our culture.
Yes.
That's what the war in Ukraine is about. Because Putin is looking at Ukraine, and Ukraine is nothing but Western. And what is Western culture? It's Black culture. Turn on the local TV news. If you see somebody interviewing, a former Russian who's in Ukraine right now, if they're my age, you need a translator. But if they're my daughter's age or my grandchildren's age, they speak English better than me. Why? The music that they're listening to, the videos that they're watching. And they're listening to Snoop Doggy Dogg, and they're listening to Jay-Z. The same thing. Look at the clothes that they're wearing. Holes in the knees, hats on backwards. That's what the war is about. And Putin says, I'm about to lose my culture. Yes, you are.
Wow.
Yes, you are, Vladimir.
Wow.
Come on, man. Then there's nothing wrong with that. If you want money management, if you want the latest the latest, whatever I want to say, nuances about money management, go to Jewish Americans. If you want craftsmanship, you better look at German Americans. If you're looking for the group that can take an idea and level it up based on, an introduction that happened 20 years ago, improve it, well, you're looking at Asian Americans. But if you want to take away everybody's excuse, if you want to be motivated, if you want to be inspired, you got to call us. You got to call Rhythm Nation. Because no one has been through what we have been through. And that's what they say, man, look at these people over here. They've had their ass kicked. They are on the bottom of the bottom. Maya Angelou, and still they rise. And still they change everything. They take a lemon and forget lemonade. They make lime tequila, brother. They take away everybody's excuse. And at the center of that are Black women. Because no one has been lower than low than Black women. They're Black women. And they are the dominant species. The dominant species. Why? Because they never leave anybody behind. Because Black women are the only species that live by that mantra. What about the children? What about the children? In other words, there's going to be another generation and there's going to be a future. I tell my students all the time, if you don't get it together, you are the future of the race. And if you don't get it together, then I won't have a future. I won't have a future. Why was I born in 1950 and you were born in 2002, 2003? Well, the world wasn't ready for you. They were ready for me in 1950. But now that you are here, all the stop signs have been removed. All the lights are green. As a matter of fact, let me get off this chair and get out of your way. I do not want to hold you up. Now, as Steve Jobs said, go ahead and poke a hole in the universe. poke a hole in the universe. And that's what Dr. King was saying when he said, what is your life's blueprint? What is your life's blueprint? What is your purpose? And then last question. Okay, so where are we going? And that's the question. Why are you here? You're here to complete thy noble task. That's why you're here. Who knows? I mean, this book, we got 1 million copies in print. This book may have never been out there if the Lord didn't blow breath into the lungs of Mr. Earl Graves. And just think of the millions whose lives have been changed, brother. The millions, man.
Yes. Yes.
I got my digital team just gave me my numbers, and they said, Dr. Kimbro, you'd be surprised where your biggest audience are. Here I am thinking the United States, and I said Atlanta? No, Atlanta's nowhere in the game. Blah blah blah. So they told me, okay, yeah, New York and L.A. Okay, blah blah blah. But New York and L.A. can't compare to the audience that you have in Uganda and Johannesburg, South Africa.
Whoa.
After they told me this, I got a speaking engagement on Zoom in Botswana. They were hinging on every. I said, where in the world y'all get this book, bro? Wow. You talk about global. And the only thing I can do, I can barely hold on to the coattails, man. I try my best, but wow.
Well, you're talking global, you're talking purpose, and we're talking about the eternal conversation about economic and financial advancement.
Yeah.
In the time that we have left in this conversation, talk to me about, and again, I was captivated by your post on Instagram about, keys to building wealth in a recession, which is really keys to building wealth regardless of what's happening around you, in my opinion. But talk to me about that. And here's the good news. We know, including from the latest Ariel Schwab survey of African Americans' attitude towards money, that the younger generation, the generation you just talked about,
Yep.
are more primed than any other generation. They're serious about financial education. They're serious about investing. They're more leaning into things like cyber currency and NFTs than any generation.
Yep.
But even if you take that off the table, we finally have reached a generation that don't have to be convinced that financial literacy and financial education is important. Unlike maybe baby boomers and previous generations, even the struggles that we had in terms of communicating to people. This is something you need to care about. Financial education has to be a priority in our communities. We have finally reached a point where we have a couple of generations of African Americans. I'm talking about probably Gen Z, millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z, who are saying, no, we get this.
Oh, yeah.
Yet they are trying to operate in a we call it a pre-recessionary environment. We just come out of a pandemic, the economic shutdown that impacted that. Based on what you both shared on Instagram and what you're thinking now, what are you telling people about how to build wealth? How do you approach wealth building? How do you approach that wealth mindset?
Well, yeah. Well, number one, as I said in the beginning of the show, is that mindset is your greatest resource. Mm-hmm. And then what I try to do is build a foundation for wealth. And I tell them all the time, there are 10 different forms of wealth. The biggest mistake we think is that money is the only form of wealth. No, money is one of the 10, but money is not even number one. Money is number 3. Well, Dr. Kimbro, what's the number one form of wealth? Well, the number one form of wealth is knowledge, because the pocketbook can't grow until the mind grows, until your knowledge base goes. Well, number 2, your work habits. And number 3, of course, money. But number 10 is confidence and charisma. So number 1, I get them clarified on what is wealth, because they just might think that wealth is about living in the moment. It's about bling bling and all that. No, that's nothing to do with it. Build your foundation. Now, there's 2 camps in terms of millennials and specifically Generation Z. There's a camp who thinks that home ownership is a bad deal, and there's a camp that thinks home ownership is a good deal. Let me be clear. Right now, only 44% of African Americans own their own home. I don't care if you go Census Bureau data. I don't care if you go to Federal Reserve. I don't care when you go to the National Board of Realtors. I don't care where you go. When it comes to home ownership, that is the fastest way to growth and generational wealth. That is it. Land. And it hasn't changed. All right, Alfred, wrap your head around this. 2 weeks ago, I dropped my oldest granddaughter off at Savannah State. She loves Savannah State. I love Savannah. She's doing extremely well. And she's going into her sophomore year. She always says, Granddaddy, drop me off. Granddaddy, pick me up when we come pick me up. And I go and we spend a couple of days and the like. The reason why I like Savannah, I like the ambiance and whatever. Unlike Atlanta, Savannah has preserved its slave culture. You can drive around Savannah. You can see the auction blocks, decades ago, not decades ago, centuries ago, and the like. But here's the thing, Alfred, wrap your head around this. At the end of the Civil War in 1865, General Sherman, with the Secretary of the War, Stanton, they go down to Savannah, with Emancipation Proclamation, end of the Civil War, and they meet with about 20 pastors, clergy members, and countless ex-slaves. And Sherman asked that group, okay, so what do you want? All right, the war is over. What do you want? You want food? You want shelter? You want clothing? You want an apology? You want money? They said none of that. What do you want? You want land. Your home. Your home. We want land. And at that particular point, Sherman gave, ex-slaves more than 400,000 acres of land from 30 miles in from the coastline, as far north as central North Carolina, and as far south as northern Florida. It was all, for all practical purposes, it was beachfront, property. And why did they have that? Well, they knew that the land was worthless because back then it was an agricultural economy. The land it's sandy, it's low country. You can't grow anything on that. 90 days later, Sherman goes back down south and he sees the crops that these ex-slaves have grown, man. They said, man, you guys are superheroes to grow something on this. And he was so taken back and he was so enamored, he said, give every family a mule. There's your 40 acres and a mule.
I did not know that.
I'm telling this story to drive home. Look, Negro, go get a house. Go get a house. And so the 40 acres and mule, and as you know, Lincoln is assassinated. Johnson wipes all that out. But before he was able to wipe it out, when they were growing those crops and he gave them a mule, we started building wealth, so much wealth at the time. Here comes the Freedmen's Bank. The Freedmen's Bank. What did the boys say? Organize your capital. Organize your capital. And here's the Freedmen's Bank. And at that time, what did they have? I forgot how many millions in assets they had at that time. But if it was on the scene today, it would probably be within the top 5 largest bank in the world if it was still here today. Frederick Douglass was the president, was the curator of that bank. So I just share that story. Go get a home. Something that you could pass on, something that could build equity and the like. Now, why is that critically important? People say this is a bad economy. You got the midterms coming up. Biden's not sweating anything. Why? Because Biden knows all he has to do is pull the lever, because you've got countless, millennials who want to buy that house, but right now are not in the position to buy that house because of student loan debt. And he knows, he sat down with, his team, Federal Reserve and the like, sat down with his team. How much do I have to relieve in order to make a difference, in terms of, home ownership and the like. So that's number one, organize your capital. Number two, you're in a position, Generation Z and millennials, where you can be aggressive. All right, I'm 71 years old. I'm an old fart. So that makes me a little bit conservative investor. So I'm not running out there with cryptocurrency. And as I look back on it now, I'm glad I'm waiting on cryptocurrency and see what it, won't talk about that. That's a sermon for another Sunday. And this is not the Sunday. So I'm glad I didn't move on that. But there are other areas that you can do. And you don't have to, we know that, Alfred, right now, only 1 out of 5 African Americans own stock and the like. I spent the better part, well, about a half a day for the research with Ariel Capital Management, John Rogers.
Yeah, Rogers.
The mantra still applies: slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady wins the race. Get into position, retire debt. You're asking me what to do in a recession? Retire debt. Build a fortress. Go ahead at one time, 90 days, make sure it's 6 months. You got a 6-month bump. You got a 6-month buffer. Begin to extend that buffer because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, and you may, hey, I don't tell everybody you got to be like me. I've been at Clark Atlanta going on 25 years. Millennials and Generation Z, you guys aren't there 25 minutes. All right? But the fact of the matter is, man, in case you make a change, and what is opportunity love? Opportunity loves speed. That's an economic theory. Opportunity loves speed. Dr. Kimbro, what the hell are you talking about? When opportunity comes by you, you got to be able to act on it. Well, let me go ahead and save my money. But by the time you save your money, the opportunity's probably gone. So go ahead, build your cash reserves. Place yourself in a position where you can take advantage of all the opportunities that's out there. So that's my take. Go ahead, build a fortress, retire debt. If you're not in a position to buy a home, get in a position to buy a home. Get in a position.
Your last piece of advice is so important. And again, I'm heavy into mentoring, and I'm younger than you are, but I've been around long enough to now tell younger people, here's what I would have done if I knew better.
Yep.
And one of the biggest ones is 2 pieces of advice. One, I always say, defer your raises. Like when you get a raise, don't immediately increase your standard of living. Just let that raise sit for a year. You lived on $60,000 a year before you got that raise. Just do it for another year. You let that money pile up. If I had done that 3 or 4 times, who knows where I'd be today.
Yeah.
But the other thing that your last point about, don't wait until the opportunity and then say, I got to scramble for money. I got to scramble for money to get a down payment on the house. I got to scramble for money to start my business. I got to scramble for money to buy stocks because it's a good time. No, if you're putting money aside and you don't even know what you're going to do with it yet, but you're just putting that money aside, when the opportunity comes, you don't have to go borrow it. You don't got to hope somebody give you a loan. You ain't got to run to a friend or a relative. You can say, oh, I got this, I don't know what's going to happen. What I call an opportunity fund. We know we should have an emergency fund. That's kind of standard, financial advice, that you should have 6 to 9 months of emergency savings in case you lose your job, you want to change your job, or you have a problem. But I said, but we got to think in terms of the opportunity fund, that 6 to 9 months of savings for that opportunity that somebody might come to you and you can say, I can take advantage of that because I just have this, like you said, a cushion of funds sitting aside so I can take advantage of opportunity, as opposed to saying, I can't, I'm broke, I don't have it, I can't do it.
I mean, all you got to do is look at Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's in the same house that he was raised in the early 1950s. And he shares the story, bought that house for what, 31,000, and now that house is worth what, 700,000? I mean, all you got to do is look at me. I mean, me and my wife bought this house in 1984, still in the house. Now we've added on, we extended, but we're still in the house. I'm not saying, enjoy it. I mean, you got the money. I like the fact that I had Janetta Patton, and I need to share this story more often. Janetta Patton is Usher's mother, and she spoke in my class. Great talk. And I remember, she was sharing how she brought the whole team together, and she saw her son's strength. He was going to sing and wanted to develop a career in music and the like. And she put that whole package together. And during the Q&A, one of my students said, Miss Patton, what's the toughest thing you've ever done in your life? And she said, the toughest thing? She said, yeah, the toughest thing. She said, learn how to be the only black female in the room. And what do you mean by that? Every contract that her son has signed, she negotiated. Even his latest contract, as you know, he's part owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. The reason why I share that story, because I want you to take a deep dive into this. I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Reuben McDaniel. Reuben McDaniel, at the time, was one of the top money managers, African American, in Atlanta. I mean, all the game changers and peak performers here in Atlanta, he handled their money. And Usher made two fortunes in his life. When he came out on the music scene, he was going through money hand over fist. Cars, Bentleys, Rolls Royce, this, that, and everything. And for all practical purposes, he lost that. And then when that album, I forget the name of that album, that other album that came out, launched him out there again, he came to the realization, Alfred, that I better hold on to this money. So he asked around and he says, who's the top African-American money manager? And he was at the steps of Reuben McDaniel. When they met, and when Reuben McDaniel told me this, it blew me away. Usher contacts him on the phone and says, let's set up a meeting, blah, blah, blah. And McDaniel says, okay, I want you to bring me a financial statement when you come and we'll talk. So they meet, and Usher's sitting down across the desk from McDaniel, and he's going through his financial statement. And he's looking at it, and he's turning the pages, and he goes, oh man, that's interesting. Turns the page. Oh my God, what motivated you to do that? Turn the page. Man, I've never seen one of my clients get involved in this. Turn the page. Whoa, man. Usher, obviously we got some work to do. Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing this information. Then he hands Usher, a couple of sheets of paper, and he says, okay, if you would read over this and sign it, we can be on your way. So when Usher gets to the third page of that document and signs it, he looks at it and he says, wait a minute, what in the world am I signing? This is an application to work at McDonald's. Why you haven't signed me this? He says, because if you continue your spending and buying habits now that you have in the past, one day you're going to be working at McDonald's.
Wow. Wow.
Can you imagine telling him this?
No.
One day, if you don't change your buying habits, every room has a door, every door has a key, and every problem has a solution. Set a budget. Number one, top of your list. Know what's coming in and know what's going out. Tell cash flow to go to hell. What do you mean, Dr. Kimbro? No, you don't want cash flow. You want cash stay. When money comes to you, you want it to stay. When opportunity comes to you, you want it to stay. It's called make thy money grow. I mean, that's one of the laws in the wealth choice. Make thy money grow. The biggest mistake you will ever make in life is to think that somebody else signs your paycheck. No, you are president of your own corporation. How are your finances? How's your growth and development? All right? Go ahead and get a spreadsheet. Look at where you are right now as where you were last year. Is your bottom line growing? Is it? Know your bottom line. Know your value add. Know how you make money. Do you make most of your money on a job or do you make it on your side hustle? I mean, if you make it over here, then you need to expand your activity. And here is the real bottom line, millennials and Generation Z. Wages are outdated. Wages are outdated. I mean, come on, man. All right, so you got a job. Sooner or later, you got to move from that job into more entrepreneurship, into more business activity on your side. Because sooner or later, artificial intelligence is going to take over wages sooner or later, and everybody will be on a, thanks to art. Just think of all the jobs that were existed, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. People worked in and can't do it today.
Yep.
I mean, all right, so your plane flew in the airport, you called Lyft, you called Uber, and blah, blah, blah. Those jobs are going to be gone within 10 years. Why? Automated cars. There will be no Uber or Lyft driver. Automated cars. I mean, just think of Jiffy Lube. What do you mean Jiffy Lube? Well, if it's an electric car, there's no such thing as Jiffy Lube. There's no liquid in the car except windshield wiper fluid. Think of all the industries, gas stations will be gone. I mean, come on, man. Connect the dots. Where are we going? The economy has shifted. We have gone from agricultural to industrial, knowledge-based, digital, and the like, and now you are in the creator's economy. That's Kimbro, what the hell are you talking about? You're creating your own economy. You create your own economy. And what is the start? If you got a smartphone and a point of view, you're in business for yourself. That's why I'm on this podcast. Oh yeah, all right, so yeah, all right, this is video, but it's going to be on a podcast sooner or later. You just hear the audio, and will you take the information in your smartphone? You are creator of your own economy. And remember, going back to Steve Jobs, what did he say? Don't build a business, build an economy. Number two, what can you do? We already talked about that. Number three, fulfill the dreams of your clients. Fulfill the dreams of your clients. And the best examples that you got Walt Disney and you got Phil Knight of Nike Shoes. When Walt Disney told his team, all right, so he comes out with the movie Cinderella. Cinderella comes out in the 1930s. He sees that it's really changing the entire world, cinematography, the entire world, blah, blah, blah. And he gets the idea, I got to find a way to keep the kids in the fairy tale. Man, if I just wait for them to go and see the movie and don't do anything after that, I'm losing money. How in the world can I keep them in the fairy tale? I'll build a theme park. All right? So he builds a theme park, and his team told him, man, you're going to build this theme park, and you're telling me that it's going to, a family of four that's going to come to Disneyland is going to spend $8,000 for a week. Where in the world are they going to get that money? Walt, you're going to price yourself out. He said, no, they'll pay for it. Walt, I'm telling you, they will not pay $8,000. He said, no, they will pay for it. Why are you so sure they're going to pay for it? Because we're going to give them memorable moments. Dr. Kimbro, what in the world are you talking about? Forget needs and wants, consumers, millennials, Generation Z. Look, damn it, I don't want to hear about needs and wants. Give people feelings. Give them feelings. That's Kimbro. Why did you buy the iPhone instead of the Android? Because when I buy the iPhone, I feel innovative. I feel creative. I feel entrepreneurial. Girlfriend, why did you buy MAC Cosmetics instead of Victoria's Secret? Well, when I buy MAC, I feel like I'm in control. I feel fierce. Alfred, why did you buy the Weider weight belt instead of the Walmart weight belt? Well, I mean, they're both weight belts, but when I see that Weider logo on the weight belt, man, that makes me break. That makes me go deep, deep, deep to get those last couple of reps. That's the feeling that I get. The hell with needs and wants, give them feeling. And then last but not least, what does Jobs say? If you can, once you've done the other three, always, always focus on total mastery. Master your craft. Now, why in the world does he want to do that? Alfred, anybody can, achieve a goal one time. All right, Beyonce, you can make the top of the Billboard's 80 one time. All right, Michael Jordan, you can win a national championship one time. Okay, Derek Jeter, you can win the World Series one time. But Jeter, you won it 4 times. Beyonce, you've been up there how many years in a row? And Jordan, you got 6 rings? Well, if you can do it over and over, LeBron James, what is that? Well, that's dominance. And that's what you want to do. You want to dominate your craft. Because when you dominate your craft, you never have to worry about income and you never have to worry about employment. Why? The marketplace will seek you out. The marketplace, everybody wants to be the best. It's called top of mind status. Alfred, if I tell you, okay, think of a hotel. Well, I think of 4 Seasons. I think of Ritz-Carlton. Okay, think of a car. I think of a Bentley. I think of a BMW. Okay, if I think of the media source, well, I think of Black Enterprise magazine. That's where I get my information from. And you always want, that's why you focus on your craft. Top of mind status. And that's what I focus on. That's what Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice, and the Wealth Choice, top of mind. And I've been blessed. I mean, the book has been out there for 30 years. All right, so you look at Amazon. Every hour of the day, 24 hours, 365 days a year, Amazon, every hour of the year, of the day, they track the top 6 million to 8 million books. And they got them in different segments. They got it in history. They got it in philosophy. They got it in finances. They got an African American demographic. Well, you go to the African American demographic, and 2 of these books are always going to be on the top 100. I've been blessed. And
listen, and I know this because even though I have the first printing of Think and Grow Rich Black, I was young enough to have bought it, and also I got Wealth Choice hardcover, first printing. But I literally just bought copies of both books. Like if I ever meet anybody who hasn't read the books yet, I'm like, what do you mean you never read? Okay, I'm getting on Amazon right now. It'll be waiting for you when you get back to your house. Because so you're right. It's not just about what you buy for yourself. When you talk about top of class, top of mind, I'm still buying copies of the book for other people. All my kids have gotten copies.
Alfred, I wasn't saying that for my own aggrandizement.
I'm saying it so you don't have to. Yeah, my point is that when you're that person, when you have mastery, you don't actually have to sell anymore. Your customers sell for you. People want even your customers. Like I tell people, I said, you don't have to be a Black woman to know that essence is what you want if you want something for Black women.
Yeah.
White men will know, oh, you're a Black woman that cares about you must be reading Essence. Yeah. So I said, you've achieved it when you're not even part of the marketplace. Yeah. But you still know what the top brand is in that space.
Yeah.
Your point is just really well taken, because I think people they don't think everybody appreciates the need to master something.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be basketball or singing, or it could be, but whatever it is, you do want to own it. You want to own it to the point where everybody points to you and says, man, if you want the person that's going to paint your house the way you want your house painted,
yeah. I was just saying it because I am blessed. Every author wants an audience for his or her work, and I've been blessed, and I am completely humble. I mean, you come to my class and you will never, ever, sorry, Miss Jackson, never find any of my books on my syllabus. I'm not there to hold books.
True.
Now, the kids will go out and buy them. You can go up, but what you will find, Alfred, is some of my cases that I've written. And I've written some dynamite cases, man. So glad to have this moment together that we could share.
Well, in the time we have left before I let you go, I really, the beauty of this show is that it's great conversation, but you can't get everything. I mean, you taught a masterclass right here. I can hold your house for another 4 hours. You have more to give. But for those people that want to, follow you on social, your website, buy your book, what's the best way for them to keep up with what Dr. Dennis Kimbro is doing?
My website, Dr. Dennis Kimbro Speaks. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. Just go ahead, type in Dennis Kimbro, and somehow, some way, I will pop up.
Well, we've known each other for a long time, and of course, I follow you on all the platforms. I'm telling my audience right now, follow Dr. Kimbro's Instagram. That's Dr. Dennis Kimbro on Instagram. You will thank me later. Just send all the DMs. Thank me for turning you on to following Dr. Dennis Kimbro on Instagram. So yeah, you're on the other platforms, but I watch your posts every time you post something new, because I know that it's going to be,
well, I hope you got some good content. They can get off your back now.
Yeah, exactly. Dennis, Dr. Kimbro, thank you so much for giving your time, your passion, your expertise, your lived experiences, your knowledge, the value you bring to the world, that you've always brought to the world. You're one of my favorite people. I consider you a role model and a mentor.
Likewise,
being a friend. Just thank you for joining us for this edition of Beyond the Hype. And this is another great edition of Beyond the Hype. I'm ramping it up with the heavy hitters. This edition of Beyond the Hype has been brought to you by Citi. I'm Alfred Edmund Jr., Senior Vice President, Executive Editor at Large for Black Enterprise. We'll see you next time. Take care. Celebrate the excellence in Black men at the Black Enterprise Black Men Excel Summit. Meet our country's best and brightest Black men who are redefining their image.
We need to make sure that the world knows that we are here and that we are doing our business, so let us salute ourselves for that.
Be there this October 12th through the 14th at the Gaylord National Resort and Convention Center in National Harbor, Maryland.
It's time for people to see that Black men are doing great things and doing it positively.
By doing this Excel Summit, it empowers us, it inspires us to be more creative and to do things that we haven't necessarily or traditionally done.
I met some great people here that I plan to do business with in the future, and I plan to learn from.
This was an eye-opening experience.
For more information, log on to blackenterprise.com/BMX.